8.6. Solve multiplication, division equations. Essential questions. How do you solve multiplication and division equations? Connect. You can use properties of equality and inverse operations. This is going to be an important term for you to know. Inverse operations to solve multiplication and division equations. So division property of equality. If you divide both sides of an equation by the same non-zero number, the two sides will remain equal. So basically any number other than 0 you're dividing the numbers by. If you divide both sides by the same number, the sides will still remain equal. Okay, unlock the problem. May ran 14 laps around the track for a total of 4,200 meters. The equation 14d equals 4,200 can be used to find the distance d in meters. She ran in each lap. Solve the equation and explain what the solution means. Solve the multiplication equation. To get d by itself, you must undo the multiplication by 14. Dividing by 14 is the inverse operation. So, I want you to notice here, they say multiplying is the inverse operation to dividing, and vice versa. It's the opposite. You have to do the opposite. So, write the equation. 14d equals 4,200. So use the division property of equality. Because 14 and d are right next to each other, that means they're being multiplied. So we're doing the inverse operation, which is dividing. So we're going to divide 14d by 14, and then 4,200 by 14. Okay, let's do this division. So we're going to divide 4,200 divided by 14. So 14 goes into 42 3 times. 3 times 14 is 42. Bring down the 0. Goes in there 0 times. Bring down the other 0. 0 times. So 1 times d equals 300. And then d equals 300. Check the solution. Write the equation. Substitute 300 for d. So 14 times 300 equals 4,200. So 4,200 is equal to 4,200 there. So the solution means that May ran 300 meters in each lap. Example 1. Solve the equation 2/3 n equals 1/4. Think. N is multiplied by 2/3, so divide both sides by 2/3 to undo the division. Write the equation. Write the equation. 2/3 n equals 1/4. Use the division property of equality. The division property of equality. So we're going to do 2/3 n divided by 2/3 and 1/4 divided by 2/3, because remember we're doing the same to both sides. Now, here is a little review. Remember when we divide fractions, we have to flip the second guy and multiply. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to flip the fraction over. So instead of 2/3, it's going to be 3/2. So I'm going to write over to the side 1/4 times 3/2, and we're going to multiply straight across. 1 times 3 is 3, and 4 times 2 is 8. 3/8, and they do not have common factors, so we cannot reduce, so the complete answer is 3/8. And we'll put that there. Here I want to look at for a little bit multiplication property of equality. So it's basically the same thing as division, but you're multiplying. If you multiply both sides of the equation by the same number, the two sides will remain equal. Example 2. A biologist divides a water sample equally among 8 test tubes. Each test tube contains 24.5 milliliters of water. Write and solve an equation to find the volume of the water sample. Step 1. Write an equation. Let V represent the volume in milliliters. So V over 8, because they're dividing among 8 test tubes. And that's going to be equal to, well, what's the other number in your story problem? 24.5 milliliters. That is how you're going to write the equation out. Step 2, solve the equation. V is divided by 8, so multiply both sides. Remember, we're going to do the inverse operations. So use the multiplication property. So 8 times V over 8 equals 8 times 24.5. So the volume of the water sample is, we need to find the answer. So we need to do 24.5 times 8. Okay, if I go ahead and do my math, 5 times 8 here is 40. Put down the 0, carry the 4. 8 times 4 is 32, plus 4 more is 36. Put down the 6, carry the 3. And 8 times 2 is 16, plus 3 is 19. Now, I did jump over one time to get my decimal point in my problem, so I'm going to do the same thing down here. Because remember, that's what we do in multiplying and dividing. So, I have 196. 196 milliliters. Share and show. Solve the equation. 2.5m equals 10. 2.5m equals 10. I'm going to divide both sides by 2.5. So 10 divided by 2.5. We're going to use the blank property of equality. So we're dividing here, so it's division. Okay? Now, remember when we divide. If you don't have a calculator, if you divide 10 divided by 2.5. You guys are like, how do I do that? Well, remember, you add a decimal point and you move it over. Okay? And you move it over. Bring it straight up. I'm going to add a placeholder 0. So 25 goes into 100. 4 times 25 is 100. So 4. Look how easy that was. Number 2. 3x equals 210. Okay? Then you would get x equals 70. 2.8 divided by 4. Now I'm going to let my group use calculator, so go ahead and use your calculator on this one. You are going to divide each side by 4 because that is the coefficient next to the variable. Okay? So you're going to actually end up t equals 0.7. T equals 0.7. 1/3 n equals 15. So we are going to divide by 1/3 on each side. Okay? So here, guys, to do this, you would do 15 over 1 divided by 1/3. And remember, you have to flip the second guy and multiply. So let's do that one over here. 1/3 n equals 15. 1/3 n equals 15. Let's do that one together. Okay? These are right next to each other. That means they're being multiplied together. We're going to do the inverse operation, so we're dividing. We need to divide this side by 1/3, and we need to divide this side by 1/3. Okay? This is going to be n equals 15 over 1 divided by 1/3. Remember, we flip the second guy and multiply. This one stays the same. Change our sign and flip the guy. Now we have 15 times 3. 5 times 3 is 15. Carry the 1. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 more is 4. So we have 45 over 1. Anything over 1 is just itself. Okay? So we're going to go back and we're going to write 45. N equals 45 here, and remember your work is on the next page. Number 5. 1/2 y equals 1/10. Same thing, guys. It's being multiplied, so you need to divide. You need to divide. Okay? 1/2 y equals 1/10. 1/2 y equals 1/10. We're dividing each side by 1/2. Y equals 1/10 divided by 1/2. Y equals 1/10. Change the sign. Flip the second guy. 2 over 10. Both have a common denominator of 2 1/5. Y equals 1/5. 25 equals A over 5. So A right here is being divided by 5. So we need to do the opposite. So we need to multiply. So we're going to multiply 25 times 5. Okay, 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12. So then A equals 125. Okay, these look hard, but they are not as hard as they look. Okay, now this is the same thing happening on number 7. 1.3 equals C over 4. It's being divided by 4 here. C is being divided by 4. So we need to do the inverse operation, which is multiply. So we need to multiply each side by 4. Okay, so we need to do 1.3 times 4. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 more is 5. We move the decimal point 1, so we're going to do that in our answer. C equals 5.2. Okay, so here are your answers in highlighter. Alright, go ahead and get started on your own. Go ahead and after you're finished with on your own, I want you to have 9 and 10 checked before you move on to homework.